waking up in a nightmare matrix. I awoke that morning much earlier than usual. I had a lot to do in preparation for the National UFO Conference that I was hosting later that week at the Alamo Drafthouse. I turned on the propaganda channel, CNN, as usual. I was greeted by the greedy image of America's wealth burning. The North Tower was smoking. I was shocked, but not surprised. I went into the kitchen and started brewing some Java. Then I heard a scream from the TV. "Oh my God, not another one!" I ran back into the living room, just in time for the instant replay. A second plane had deliberately struck the South Tower. And then I knew. The war has begun. I'd just been a witness to America's greatest Reichstag event. I knew right then and there that America was totally screwed, that our freedoms were about to evaporate, that our Constitution was about to be eviscerated, that the ruling elite had finally decided to, bam, kick it up a notch. I sat down, dazed but not confused. I watched in horror and awe as the events continued to unfold. My phone began ringing off the wall. My network of parapolitical reporters were all checking in. We all knew what this meant. We'd all read the recently declassified Operation Northwoods documents, wherein the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1962 plotted to blow up American airlines, bomb Washington, and kill U.S. citizens, all as a pretext for invading Cuba. We all knew that the FBI had instigated the original 1993 attempt at taking down the World Trade Center. We all knew that Tim McVeigh wasn't the real bomber of the Oklahoma City Murrah Federal Building in '95. We all knew something was about to happen, as we had been warned by the likes of David Shippers and Alex Jones months before the attacks of 9/11. Not only that, but another conspiratorially minded acquaintance of mine had, in the weeks leading up to 9/11, warned me that, quote, something big, something earth-shattering will happen between September 17th and September 20th. He didn't know what, and he didn't know exactly when, but he did know. His warnings were based on various prophecies, as well as the general intel that was circulating in the weeks prior. Everybody knew. The CIA, the FBI, the Bush administration, Putin and the KGB, Israeli Mossad, the French, the Germans, the Brits. Everyone knew this was coming. Evidence goes back to the Philippines in 1995, so why the hell wasn't it stopped? And then the towers fell like the falling hammers of fascism that continue to fall each and every day since 9/11. The towers, seemingly for no reason whatsoever, came crashing down in the surreal maelstrom of death's debris. Among the thousands killed in the collapse was John P. O'Neill, a former deputy director of the FBI who had, just 2 weeks prior to the attacks, allegedly quit in disgust over the Bush administration's apparent obstruction of his investigations of certain al-Qaeda terrorist suspects. In the new book, Hidden Truth, from intelligence analysts Charles Broussard and Guillaume Dasky, O'Neill is purported to have told the authors, quote, the main obstacles to investigate Islamic terrorism were U.S. oil corporate interests and the role played by Saudi Arabia in it. It's unclear what exactly happened to O'Neill that fateful day, but the reason he was in the World Trade Centers in the first place was his new post-FBI job was head of security at the World Trade Center. John O'Neill died the first day of his new job. The tragedy of that Tuesday's attacks weighed heavy on my mind. I was forced to completely cancel the 38th National UFO Conference I'd been working so hard towards the previous year. There was no way to continue with the event. The 20-plus speakers flying in from around the United States and Britain weren't going anywhere. The airports were all closed. Besides, how on earth would people be able to get caught up in such a subject as UFOs in the midst of so much suffering? The irony of this was a phone call we'd taken the previous week when I'd appeared on Jeff Contreras' Therefore I Am cable access show. How can you guys talk about such trivial matters as the existence of UFOs when there are paramilitary actions being perpetrated against innocent civilians around the world? To which we responded, that's a vital area of importance that we do cover. We don't research one topic within a vacuum, or words to that effect. Ripples in the collective unconscious. Within the next few days, a number of my friends would report the clairvoyant precognitive dreams they'd had prior to waking up to the terrors of that morning. One friend described a dream in which he was wandering around inside a skyscraper with a friend of his whom he associates with New York City because they met in film school there. They came to a room filled with mourning Middle Eastern people. He knew that, whatever had happened, they were being falsely accused. A woman approached them and asked them to please leave as they wanted privacy while mourning. He then woke up and later learned of the attacks. Another friend had a dream of being atop a skyscraper and being forced to jump. He told himself that If I believe the ground is water, then I won't be killed by the impact. He jumped and found himself submerged in the muddy bottom under the water, unable to get free, struggling to breathe. Neither of these friends consider themselves psychic. Another friend of mine does have a history of prophetic dreams, and this time was no different. On September 9th, he had a dream replete with imagery of the coming attacks. Buildings crumbling, dust clouds billowing down upon him, being covered in gray ash. He interprets that night's dreams to mean that both sides of these events, the Western world and the Middle Eastern world, are both conspiring to actualize the apocalypse of the Bible. He also sees the result in America for what it is, a fascist takeover. You can read his complete dream and interpret it yourself at elphis.net/DT for Dreamtime/JL sleepoftowers.html. But perhaps the most impressive evidence for prophetic foreknowledge on the part of humanity as a whole was the massive deviation from randomness recorded by random event generators around the world before the first plane even hit the North Tower. For the past few years, a number of the world's leading parapsychologists have been collecting data around the world to determine if human attention, i.e. consciousness, affects randomness as created by state-of-the-art random number generators. A local host of one of the global REGs, Gary Hesseltine, spoke recently to the Austin Ions Group at the Austin History Center. He spoke of the difficulties inherent in scientifically examining this startling data, but implores others to examine the data and help to create future experiments. You can look at all the data at noosphere.princeton.edu/terror.html. That's noosphere, noosphere.princeton.edu. There were many other strange prophecies associated with the September 11th attacks. Several different CD album covers produced before the attacks from America to Germany to Australia featured images of airplanes and or explosions associated with the World Trade Center skyline, as did a Middle Eastern calendar. Also, a Wisconsin preacher had a vision of the New York City skyline ablaze while visiting there on July 6, 2001. He published his vision online and in his print newsletter, which you can read at lasttrumpetministries.org. Also, a Lone Gunman TV episode aired months before 9/11, in which an airliner hijacked by remote control is used to try and fly the plane into the World Trade Centers. Do a search online. You can watch the episode. And Mark Allen has a Freudian dream September 7th. The dreamer is among a group of agents within a birth canal. The dream eventually switches to more literal references to the approaching tragedy. Quote, "Then I seem to be in another reality, another New York City that looks nothing like New York City. It is sunny and daytime. There is one point where I am trying to do something secret under this grassy highway underpass. I am trying to make these drawings on paper or something, and there is a sidewalk near me, and this line of school children, who all have really strange hairstyles, are walking along it. I don't want them to see me for some reason. Then I'm walking down the street, and suddenly I hear people screaming and saying stuff like, 'It's a really big accident!' and 'Oh my God!' And I run to the intersection and look down the street. The next intersection seems to drop off into the Hudson River, so I must be somewhere on the Upper East Side, and I see this gigantic concrete cone thing that has tiered steps like a pyramid, but it's a cone. It is spinning slowly, and as it does, I see a bunch of people getting kind of dumped onto it from above somewhere. Some of the people are dead already, and others are screaming and trying to get off the cone and getting crushed. It's really a major deal and really horrific. My adrenaline rushes, and I grab my cell phone and dial 911. As I am thinking, a lot of people are probably calling 911 from their cells, but I'm going to call anyway. I'm wondering if 911 waits to hear a certain amount of calls on major disasters before they know if it's a hoax or not, because really, that is the first they would hear about it, and if it was just one call, it might be a prank. I am stuttering and choking on tears as I talk to the 911 operator because it's such an intense, scary moment. After I hang up the phone, after giving the operator the information, I look up and see the disaster is just getting worse. Whole 18-wheeler trucks and cars with people in them are getting dumped onto the cone, and everyone is getting crushed, and people are screaming, and it's awful. This dream is archived at Mark Allen's website, markallencam.com/dreamjournalsseptember2.html. So what's the point? Pay attention to your dreams. They are our most direct connection to the source and one another. You can share the dream environment with others. I know. I've experienced mutual dreaming and dream switching. More on that next time.